Hey, what's going on YouTube? Alabama Reloader here. So really excited about today's video. This is going to be extremely fun and a really cool video because I came across something that I just couldn't pass up. And I'm actually, to be honest with you, at the time when I made the purchase, I didn't fully understand what I was getting. And now that I have it in my possession and I'm able to dive into it a little bit, this thing is really cool. So today's video, I'm going to be comparing, just like the title says, the old Remington 700 quality to the new Remington 700 quality. This is the Remington 700 CDL that you guys have seen a few videos on. This is the post-bankruptcy model Remington 700. This is not the one that has the Timney trigger installed at the factory. So I know they have a partnership with Timney, and now I believe it was starting like in July or June or something like that. Sometime in the summer of 2023, they made the transition to where I believe it was all Remington 700s would come from the factory with a Timney impact trigger, I believe is the name of the trigger that they Timney developed for the Remington 700, the new budget-oriented trigger that they released for that. But this one does not have it, so this is pre that. But I still like the trigger that's in it. It's adjustable. I've got it around 3 pounds right now, but this is the CDL up top. This one right here, I had to do some digging around because I just wasn't 100% sure what this was. I knew it was a Remington 700, I knew that much. But I picked this up actually at Cabela's. They have a used gun section. They call it the gun library, but you can go on their website, any Cabela's website, you can go on there, or Bass Pro, I believe it is, since they're kind of under the same umbrella now. You can go on their website, look in their used guns category, and it will actually pull used firearms. It'll pull the used firearm inventory from all of the locations. And what's neat about that is you can go in, you can filter by center fire, rifle, pistol, shotgun, rimfire stuff, whatever, and it'll show you. And then I sort that way. I just sort by center fire, rifle, and then I sort price, low to high, and I just start there and then work my way through the list. And if there's something that jumps out at me, and I was actually gonna call. I had called a separate location about a different firearm, and they had already sold it. They just hadn't updated the website. And so I was scrolling through, looking, through a few more, and this thing popped up. And the Remington 700, older Remington 700, which is something that I've wanted for a while. Woodstock, firearm. I wanted an older model. It was either a couple of things, either a Remington 700 or a Winchester Model 70. So those are kind of the two that I was on the lookout for. And then this one popped up, and I thought, why not, right? I'll just pull the trigger on it. And I'm really glad I did, because it turns out this is a very, very early copy of the Remington 700. It has a 5-digit serial number that starts with 1. And just based off the information that I've been able to gather online and try to track it down, I haven't had any luck necessarily tracking down the serial number to an exact manufacture date. But I've seen other videos of people who've shown their older Remington 700s. One of them, the guy, he said he found out his was produced in 1968. And his serial number was close to like 99,000. So 5-digit serial number, but close to 100,000. Mine, 5-digit, way lower than that. So, I think this is somewhere around maybe 63, 64. They started producing the 700 in 1962, right? And so that's kind of where you have to start with. And so this is somewhere around, I think, 63, 64. And the early model Remington 700s, how you can tell that they produced an ADL and a BDL. I believe is the only two models that they produced. of the 700. And this is an ADL from everything that I can read and try to find out on forum threads and stuff. This is an ADL because it does not have the hinge floor plate. Okay, supposedly the BDL, I guess it came from the factory with the hinge floor plate. So I'm thinking this is the ADL. And a few things that several people have pointed out when I'm trying to research all this and figure out just how old this thing is. One of the things that they did on the early models was it included a tombstone safety. So it looks like a tombstone. That's the safety, right? So also, along with that, there is a cutout on the top of the receiver. You can see that right there. Okay, there's a cutout. And what that's for is a stripper clip. And they did that on the early versions of the 700. And then also what they did, on the left side of the receiver, they drilled and tapped the receiver to install a factory peep sight, or to install an aftermarket peep sight, if you wanted to, right? That was an option. So, and then it includes, I believe this is an aluminum butt pad. I think from everything butt pad, not necessarily, but butt plate, I guess you, more appropriate term for that. I believe it's aluminum from everything I've read, just says Remington on it. Really nice though, really nice firearm overall. Haven't shot it yet, so it could shoot like garbage. It is chambered. The only downside, of course, the only downside to this is it's chambered in the cartridge that I like the least, which is the 30-06. But if I am gonna own that cartridge, I wanna own it in something along this line, right? And so that's really cool, right? And we've got the Remington, the rear sight here and the front post. Everything is still just about in pristine condition. I mean, really, really nice. Even the stock is in really, really good shape. You can tell whoever owned it, either they didn't shoot it much, never really took it hunting. It's just in amazing condition. Also, kind of on the checkering and stuff, from some of the videos I've watched on older Remingtons, I guess they pressed the checkering into the wood, you know, with some type of iron plating or something. They pressed this design into the wood, which I will say has definitely held up better than the new version. Not exactly sure how they do this, checkering now, but you can already see kind of this this lighter discoloration here. This is from where it's riding on the bags that I shoot it on, and so you can kind of already see, you know, that's I mean, it's not the end of the world, but there's a clear difference in my opinion, because this gun's like 60 years old, right? And this one's very new. So in terms of the quality of the checkering and that type of stuff, so thumbs up to older Remington for that. Now, and as far as the wood stock goes, I don't necessarily, to me, I mean, it's more personal preference, you know, to each his own. I like both of them. I think the new walnut stock that they have, that thing's really nice. So I don't really, there's, you know, one or the other, right? It's really just personal preference at that point. There's no jeweling on the bolt or anything like that. I don't believe they did that. You know, like here, I don't believe they did that back then. Not 100% sure on that. And that's the other thing too, why I'm posting this video. If you're a Remington 700 historian or like guru, throw some knowledge down in the comments just to clarify and make sure everything I'm saying is somewhat accurate, because I just tried to find this stuff online. It's not the easiest thing in the world to track down in terms of the date of manufacture for this guy. I just know it's somewhere early 60s, probably 2, 3, or 4, somewhere in that range. So it's a very old Remington 700. Now, what's also neat about this guy is it comes with a Weaver Weaver V8 scope This is really cool. This was super neat. It's a variable power optic, and it goes from 2.5 to 8. So 2.5 to 8 power. And what's interesting about this, I had to go look this up and do some digging. Luckily, I found like a brochure on this thing. What's really cool about it is it's got the reticle in it is very unique, and I'll do another video probably on this thing a little bit later, and I'll try to get some footage through the scope so you guys can actually see the reticle. But it's very unique and interesting in that there's 3 separate lines in the reticle. So you've got like a thick line that runs across. You've got 2 of them that parallel each other. So you've got 2 thick lines that run across, 2 thick lines that run up, right? So you've got parallel and perpendicular thick lines that actually create a box in the dead center of the scope. Well, in between those lines, you have a fine line, fine reticle, crosshair, duplex style, that runs in between those lines. So you have a box, and within that box, you have a very fine crosshair. And I was reading the brochure on this. This was very interesting. And the reason they did that was the box, creating that box shape within the scope allows your eye to more quickly focus in on the center of the scope. And they were talking about at 2.5 power, that's really good for if you're trying to shoot running game like whitetail deer or anything like that. It's better because it allows you to quickly, your eye adapts more rapidly to the center. It focuses more rapidly to the center of the scope. And then when you crank it up to 8 power, that fine crosshair within the box comes into play if you're trying to shoot, smaller targets, varmints, groundhogs, that type of stuff. So I thought that was very interesting and unique. And what else is really unique about this setup is it comes with these Weaver mounts. You didn't have to buy the mount with the scope. If you had scope rings for it, you could use other scope rings. But this mount is very unique in the fact that you actually make the adjustment back here on the rear of the scope. So you're actually you're manipulating the scope itself. You're not manipulating the internals of the scope. You're simply repositioning the scope when you make the elevation adjustment and the windage adjustment. I thought that was very interesting, right? Because nowadays, that's something you want to make sure you're not putting stress or strain on your optic. You want to make sure your scope rings are aligned very well. That's why I believe was it Area 419 or whatever, those guys came out with like some premium scope rings where the alignment is just so precise because the way they're CNC machined and all, that's a big deal nowadays. Well, and then this guy, you're over here pushing this scope, up or down, left or right on the tail end of the scope to position the reticle where you need it to be. So that's just it's just different, right, than anything I've ever seen before. So I thought that was very neat, very cool piece of optics and firearm history, I think, is what we have in front of us. This is a very early Remington 700 with a period correct scope and ring system. Just every bit of it. Very cool, very neat. Glass is okay. This was probably from the 60s as well, if I had to guess. You're talking 60-year-old glass. Actually pretty clear, so pretty surprising. When I got it and was able to look through it, that's what I was most interested about. Was once I got it, I wanted to look through the scope because I want to leave the scope on it. And luckily, everything checked out. Now I do have to shoot it, make sure it's even going to be a shooter. Hopefully, find a load that works good in it. But yeah, overall, in terms of just the quality, the fit and finish, the new compares just as good to the old. So I know everyone likes to throw that around, especially in the comments of my videos about this guy is, they'd never buy a new Remington. It's only You know, they don't have the same quality that they once did. And I hear you, they didn't for a long time. But I'm telling you, these new ones, the ones I've seen in this particular copy that I have now, they are definitely doing something right now. So if you were a Remington fan before, I would encourage you to at least entertain the thought of, you know, picking one of these guys up, handling them, you know, at a gun shop or something, just checking them out. You would be surprised. I know I was. But yeah, just, I had to have this, right? This is just such a unique and cool piece of Remington history, in my opinion. So, but yeah, overall, you know, fit and finish on this thing is still really nice. Really nice, really solid, you know, considering the thing's like 60 years old. So very cool. But in terms of quality, new versus old, it's really kind of hard to do an actual comparison. I mean, the machining and the technology that we have today in manufacturing is so far and away advanced compared to what was being done 60 years ago. The materials, all the above, right? The finishing on firearms. But overall, I mean, this thing is really nice. So is the new one. So it really comes down to personal preference, right? Do you like the new or do you like the old? So if you like the old, you got to track down the old. New, go pull you one off the shelf today. So that's it. That's where we're going to leave it. You guys leave me your thoughts below. You know, are you one of those diehard Remington guys that swear off the new one and you'll never buy a new Remington ever again because they're no longer truly Remington, whatever that means? Or we give them a second chance. I think they kind of deserve a second chance. I want to see them come back and be successful. I really do. Remington needs to be a successful brand in this industry. Yeah, that bodes well for everyone, right? The more firearms that we have of high quality, it's just better for everyone, right? So that's it. That's where we're going to leave it. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And again, if you have any information regarding old Remington 700s, right? If you're able to pinpoint a date range or a year that this thing was manufactured, I'd greatly appreciate it. Again, five-digit serial number, starting with 1. Yeah, so that's it. That's where we're going to leave it. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll catch you next time.